Hi, everyone. Welcome to Drink It In. Oh my gosh, season 10. This is the dynamic duo season. And I have I have here with me such good friends. You know, sometimes I interview people and they become my friends, but this time I have friends that I'm actually interviewing.
And hopefully we'll stay your friends after this is done. We won't say anything. And like, we don't want to be friends with them anymore.
Okay, so I'm so glad you just did that, Shlomo. Okay, they're going to introduce themselves in a second, but I just want to say something. I knew Devorah first, the wife I knew first from Project Inspire. And then through different things, I guess Shlomo had reached out to me because besides them doing something together, they also have separate Instagram accounts and separate projects that they do. So Shlomo had written a book and he reached out to me and we did a live together. And that was the first time I think I've ever interacted with Shlomo. And I was like, this guy is a panic. All I kept on thinking about is, I wish I could be at your dinner table every night to see.
Once the mic turns on, you don't know what's going to come out.
I know. I was like, Devorah must have the blast every night. This is hysterical. So anyway, I'm going to allow you guys to introduce yourself, and then we'll start getting to know you a little bit better as a couple. Go ahead, introduce yourselves, guys.
All right. I'm so not used to being the first. Shlomo's generally like the podcast host, so I'm like following. But it's a pleasure and an honor to be called your friends, Jordana. We learned so much from you, and it really is so special to be here. So we are Devorah and Shlomo Buxbaum. We live in Silver Spring, Maryland, and we have 6 children. And we run our own organization. It's called the Lev Experience that we started together. We have pretty much, since the time that we moved back from Israel, when we lived there for a few years in the beginning of our marriage, but we've been in the States for close to 13 years.
That's correct. Our bar mitzvah year.
That's right. It's our bar mitzvah year. We have,
or bat mitzvah, depending on when you celebrate.
True. We have been working side by side for the last 13 years. So we really have been doing this for 13 years together.
And you're still together. That's a miracle.
We are.
So where you guys
are? We've been married for longer. We've been married for 8 years. Our chai year married. Right. Working together for 13 years.
Right. But sometimes that's why I'm doing this podcast, because I find it, first of all, couples staying together is unbelievable. That in itself, I feel like it's bara, like it's a nes b'toch nes. Like, and nowadays, right? There's a miracle within the miracle. People staying married.
Kasha zivugim kikriyas yamsuf.
Yes, right. But I'm just saying that it's like a miracle to be married, to stay married, and then when you put the work into it, and add that layer of working with somebody, I find it fascinating, and that's why I really wanted to interview all the different couples that work together to really see. Like I'm trying to really gauge if there's like a secret that's coming out, that's what I'm, and so far you should know, I've done a few episodes. I'm going to see if you guys are true to form also, if that's really what's going to come out with you guys also. So we're going to see, but let's start from the very beginning.
I either hope we are, or I hope we're not. I'm not sure.
Okay. Fun.
So let's talk about where you guys are from originally, and then how you guys first met. Let's do that.
Yeah. So I am from Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, I didn't know
that. I was from Denver, Colorado. We were both in Israel. I was learning in yeshiva for my 4th year of Beis Medrash. Devorah was in her 2nd year of seminary. And we had somewhat mutual friends. I had close friends in Har Nof. You familiar with the Har Nof? It's like a suburb of Yerushalayim. So I
call it the concrete jungle, but yeah, go on.
What is it? The concrete jungle? So many towns are like that. So I would go there every Shabbos. I was learning. I would spend every Friday night with my Rebbe, whose name was Rabbi Moshe Tursky. He's no longer alive. He was actually killed in a terrorist attack. Terrible story. But I would study with him for many, many years. Friday night, I would eat in his home and study with him afterwards. And then there was a family there that I became very close with. I would stay at their home every Friday night. And Devorah was in seminary in Har Nof, and she became close with the family. And those families, my family and her family, were cousins. And they actually set us up. Once there was you can tell the story.
Oh my gosh. This is really bringing back the memories, because actually what happened was I was getting ready to leave my 2nd year. And the whole year they were teasing me like, we have to get you married. We have to get you married. And like, I was like, okay, like I'm, just out of seminary my whole year. But as my 2nd year was closing up, I'm like, all right, you have a guy. And at the end, really at the end, like it was like right after Pesach, They said, actually, we do know a guy. And they told me something very interesting. They said, we don't know him. We heard him speak at a Sheva Brachot. And when he spoke, he reminded us of you. But we have cousins who are very, very close with him. And we feel like you should go meet them. They should meet you and they'll decide if they think that it's a good match. So I was so young. I was so naive. And I'm like, sure, I'll go meet them. Like, another couple. Like, little did I realize, like, I was literally being interviewed, like, to see if they thought that I was going to be a good match for Shlomo. But sure enough, it was very fun to meet them. They were a young couple. They were a lot of fun. And I was just my natural self. And they ended up saying, we think this is a great match. And they became the Shadchanim. And that's how we met.
Yes. And by the way, interesting, just to add on, most of my friends had already left Israel. Like, they weren't there anymore. Mm-hmm. It was after Pesach, it was Shavuos time. They had already left. And I was already, even that Pesach, I was like, do I want to go back? They were going to Lakewood, to start dating. And I'm like, you know what? I need more time. I don't want to leave Israel. I was so happy there. I was so like in my zone, in my element. And, everything is the hand of Hashem, that I happen to have still been in Israel and there. And I remember just literally play by play of the whole thing.
Wow.
Everything playing out. It was amazing.
So I got to ask the parents question. You ready? You ready for this question? What your parents think? Like, you're both in Israel. You're not at home, especially Devorah, for you as a girl. I think maybe parents of a girl would be a lot more concerned. Like, I know I would not be thrilled if my daughter was starting to date and she's not dating from my own home, things like that. What was their reaction?
Yeah, there's many more questions because we didn't even yet tell the whole story. I'm like, I don't know. Are we going to share the audience, like how fast our dating process actually was? But the parent question is a big question. And we often have this discussion, like, should we tell our kids this story? Maybe we just like don't let them know about this because like not repeats, even though like, thank God, like beautiful, beautiful story. Just like, yeah, when I think about how it played out, I'm like, like not sure I'd want my kid to do that. A couple of things, and Shlomo could maybe speak to his parents, but so my parents I'm from Denver. It's not like we had like, sorry, Denver, but like, it just wasn't like we're having like this, flow of guys. So like, if there was a guy that was coming up in Israel, my parents were very supportive of me dating. The thing that was crazy was how fast we actually dated. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing about this whole story that I didn't even realize as it was unfolding at the time, but my parents actually did a very, very similar thing. So they also dated in Israel, away from their parents, got engaged in Israel, came back to America, engaged, and had everything happen then, which is totally mind-boggling. And so for some reason, they were like completely with their blessing. Like it was totally, and this was before the time where like there was FaceTime and WhatsApp video. Like there was not even like, I kid you not, they didn't even know really what he looked like. They knew he was in the Miami Boys Choir. And so when I came back, all of the CDs that had Shlomo Buxbaum on the front page had little heads circled. They were trying to figure out, who is this guy? That was more my like younger sisters. But
and I hadn't changed a bit. I looked the exact same as I did when I was 11 years old. It was amazing.
It was very funny. So I think that the fact that my parents had really done the same type of thing made them feel very comfortable. I'm also the oldest. I don't know if they would do the same thing. I'm the oldest of 10, thank God. At that time, I was the oldest of 9.
We're back. Wow. Okay. So I think that's amazing that your parents had a similar story. So that in that way, it made them more accepting of your story. Wow. That is
very much so.
Wow. Okay. So Shlomo, how about your parents? Were they okay with it?
I think that my parents, generally my parents were a little bit more free range in that sense. I was a pretty free spirited kid, by nature. And I guess it was, a certain amount of trust. They knew I wasn't crazy. They knew that they, probably wouldn't have much of a say either way because I was, so happy and so excited. And I wasn't calling them with that many questions. It was very, very, very clear to me. So, yeah, I think that it was, they're excited. There's that trust factor. There is the, they didn't really know like how it's supposed to flow, and I do remember my mother afterwards saying like she was really nervous about it and she didn't know whether she should, put up a stink about it. But my father was pretty chilled about it. So, I think like once you hear from your kids that they're pretty, that they're serious about it, that they're clear about it. I think that, yeah, they trusted us.
I think there was also this like, wait, are her parents okay with it? Oh, her parents okay with it? Okay, well then like maybe we should just be okay with it. Like there was kind of like this,
Right.
you know. And our fathers actually did meet. They met before we got engaged. Our fathers did meet in Brooklyn. And interesting note, our grandfathers, who are both not alive anymore, they both passed away, but they were chavrusas. They're both from Germany. They're both Yekish Jews, and they were chavrusas for many, many, many years, like years ago. So, yeah,
That is so
was interesting.
cool.
As a matter of fact, I was just in my in-laws' house, and my father-in-law had framed some pictures, and I was looking at them, and they were very old pictures, and I saw that one of them, like my grandfather, was in the picture, which was quite unbelievable.
Wow, that is. Okay, so now let's get to the first date. You ready? One, I want to know what you did on your first date, and I want to know each one your impression of each other on the first date.
Well, I'll let you start because I feel like you remember all the detaels.
I
Sorry, I don't remember all the details.
So, yeah,
I just remember seeing a watch that I really liked, only to find out he borrowed it from a friend.
we fooled each other in many ways on that first date. But we dated pretty, for the first 2 dates, we dated pretty classic Israel style, the way that seminary girls and yeshiva guys do. So we met at one of the hotels over there.
King David.
David Siddle was the second one.
Yes,
one of those
two, yeah.
And there was a beautiful park. Do you know the area, Jordana?
Yes,
like
yeah.
right behind those hotels, you can sort of walk behind, and there's this little park that separates the hotels, and you can kind of see the old city. And I was like an old city nutcase when I was in yeshiva. I would literally spend every moment that I could in the old city. Like I loved the Kotel. I loved the little areas kind of like right outside Shar Tzion. You know, I knew all of the streets. I would hang out on the top of the shuk. I loved the old city. So we dated over there. We walked. Our dates were very, very long. And they happened, you know, in very short order, one after the other. So our first date, we spent, we met, we talked in the hotel, we went for a walk, we saw the old city. I remember our discussions. I literally remember everything. And it
does not surprise me. I cannot say the same.
No, I knew very, very quickly. Now, I just want to say, because, you know, we're here in this discussion, I just want to say to your listeners, like, I know now here we are a bazillion years and 1,000 kids later. And, you know, obviously we do a lot of counseling and coaching of people that are dating. Our story is unusual. You know, Baruch Hashem, for whatever reason, Hashem looked at both of us and decided that it should go very, very smooth and that we should have somewhat of I think it's a very cute and I think it's a somewhat romantic story because I will say in full honesty, like I really felt that I knew after that first date that we were going to get married. In fact, I went back to and I have friends that can attest to the truth of this. I went back afterwards, after the first date, I have a guitar and I picked up the guitar. And I used to just play around and, you know, write some songs. And I took one of the songs that I was working on, and I actually, right then, I just added, like, the words that I would propose with, you know, with the guitar. Like, right then, after the first date, I said, I'm pretty sure this is going to happen. Now, I say it's true. I'm always hesitant to tell this story because, again, I don't know who's going to be listening to this. And I'm sure lots of people in your audience probably just threw up when they heard this.
And also, like, you know, not to think like, oh, they did it, we could do that. Like, it really, first of all, I will just say, and even for those of you who are listening and are in Israel, like, there was a certain crystal clear clarity that being in Israel brought. I feel like it was like kvitzat haderech, you know, where Hashem like made it like a much shorter process. Just because there was no shenanigans. It was really like, it was enjoyable time, but it was like down to real like talk and real conversations and real connection. And there was just no, you know, that's really what it was.
So anyways, we don't endorse our dating process.
We haven't even said what the process yet. Like nobody even realized
exactly.
It was so crazy.
I'm
we're trying to scooch over it.
So anyways, I don't endorse anything about our dating process, nor do I think that this is the norm, nor do I want any of your listeners who may be single and in the dating process to think that this was for some reason Hashem just decided with us that it should go smoothly and we dated very quickly. I felt afterwards like I really knew, like we didn't necessarily have heavy conversations on the first date, But I knew after the first day, I'm like, I don't really feel that I need to have these deep conversations, because I felt that I understood Devorah just from how she spoke about her family, how she spoke about her teachers, how she spoke about, everything, how she spoke about her Shavuos experience. Like I said, it was a couple of weeks after Shavuos, and just telling me the things that she valued. I was so excited afterwards to see her again, and felt that she is a positive person who is literally ready to take on the world, and like there is no ceiling as to what she will want to accomplish in her life. Like, we didn't have to have a conversation about that. I felt that just from the way she describes her life. So, I think the one thing that I can maybe share with the listeners, if it adds any meaning, again, this is all the hand of Hashem. We really did nothing that I'm aware of to have this zechus, except maybe just the fact I can speak about Devorah, that I saw in her such a positive and optimistic and open person. I think that removed any sort of barrier. Sometimes you meet someone and you're just like, I don't really know them. What are they hiding? Why are they so closed? Like, their body language says, there was none of that. It felt very, very natural to me from the first time that we met.
Okay. And so what do you feel, Devorah?
Devorah didn't even like me.
I can't say that it was great. I can't say that I came home and I was like, oh, for sure I'm going to marry this guy. Like, I was not composing any songs that night. But what I will say is that it just, the whole time, it felt very right. I had my teachers in Israel that I was very close with. Thank God, I'm blessed with very, special family members in Israel who I felt like I was able to discuss it with, and just, it really felt like things were really falling into place. So I'll just share, this is what happened. So we dated 6 times within 10 days.
So you went there.
I went there because I think people have to understand what we're talking about, how fast the whole process went. So you're talking about, all the research that we do, in the Orthodox dating world. There's a lot of research that's done beforehand. So you go into a relationship, understanding the background. And then what you're really trying to do is just to see, is there chemistry? Is there attraction? Can this work? And then see. And those dates were very long, but literally, we knew each other from day 1 to day 10. By day 10, we were engaged. So I think my family was more like, whoa. But again, my parents had done also very similar. They dated very, very quickly in Israel. They also had family. They were, they had very chashuv, important people that they really looked up to and admired. And it was very similar process, actually. Very, very similar.
Wow. But what was the first thing when you saw him? Were you taken by him? Because he said your positivity and your realness. What about you for him?
Yeah, so I would say exactly. His charisma, I think, was very, he was just so. I remember that he picked me up from this family from the Dershowitz's house, and I was just so taken by the way, he was interacting with them and, their kids, and just saying hello, and just so natural. And also, what was really interesting is that he hired this cab driver who was with us the whole time. He was following the whole story. He was from day 1 till the end. He was there when he proposed, and his name was Kobe. And I really liked watching Shlomo interact with Kobe. He was a non-Orthodox, non-religious cab driver, I should say. And I just really felt just watching him interact in that way, just his upbeat attitude, and just, I loved watching him interact with other people. And certainly when he was with me, he was able to just carry the conversation so well. And one big thing I will say is that I found that whenever there was a moment of silence, and we definitely hit pockets of just okay, what next, it never ever felt weird with him. It was always okay, so it's quiet. Okay, now carry on. It was always very, very normal. And that was something that was so nice to me. I never had to fumble around to find something to say. It was very natural.
I do have to say one important thing, just going back. The whole thing with the watch, I just need to clarify for the listeners. First of all, I don't wear a watch. He
told me that after we buy him a special watch for his wedding. I've
never worn a watch. I don't know why. It just messes with my wrist. I don't even know why.
Okay, Mommy and Abba, if you're listening to this podcast, I'm sorry.
I didn't ask for it. My parents insisted. Okay. So I borrowed this watch literally because we didn't have phones. I wasn't carrying a phone at the time. So I'm just I just needed to know the time. So on the way out, I asked like a Dira mate of mine in my apartment. I said, "Does anyone have a watch I can borrow?" It happens to be the kid was like from the richest family in Flatbush, but it didn't even like occur to me that maybe the watch that he's giving me is something that's gonna put me in the road. So I just had to borrow the watch. I literally knew nothing. If you showed me the watch right now, I would have no idea.
I don't even remember what company it was,
could
but
be
I
a
remember
99
liking
cent
the
watch.
watch. I remember liking the watch.
So then I found that afterwards that it happened to be a very, very expensive watch. So that's just to clarify. I wasn't trying to impress anyone with a watch that wasn't mine.
Okay.
So I'm so glad that you told me that your beginning was quite smooth. That's fine. I don't think you have to justify, say, anything. I think that's beautiful. But let's get, as the story continues and you got engaged and then you got married, was it just as smooth? Like, how was the wedding? Was there any hiccups at all?
There were no hiccups. I think the way I remember, I think the first real hiccup was we moved in the beginning of our marriage. We started out in Denver, Colorado. As she mentioned, she's from Denver. She was enrolled in a school of social work then. Mm. And I think that for me, like I think Shana Rishona, I think I wanted a lot of it. I wanted like her full attention. And I think it was watching her have to juggle the workload. I think that was probably the first time that I had to just readjust as to what I had pictured our first year of marriage would look like. And then also because I felt that being in Denver, it wasn't the ideal situation for what I wanted to be learning at first. It actually then turned into it, after a year. But the first year wasn't the ideal situation. I started out in Kollel learning. The first situation wasn't right. And that was also difficult for me because, having to adjust to that, I'd say that's probably what I remember as being maybe the first hiccup in our relationship.
Yeah, it's interesting because a little differently than you're going to say, but I actually remember it was shortly after our wedding and I was trying my best to talk about juggling. It was intense. It was very intense. I also had like a few side jobs that I was also trying to juggle, different teaching things. And I had my family living there, which was like also a part of the picture. So, but I do remember there's a beautiful lake that we used to go around a lot in Denver. And I think it must have been like 1 a.m. or something. And suddenly I stopped. Do you remember this?
100%. You had forgotten an assignment.
Yep. Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh. I'm pretty sure that I have a massive paper due tomorrow. I don't know why I forgot. And I just remember that I think that Shlomo was just like, wait a second. Like, I think, he's presenting this side now, like, he wanted to be, he wanted more of my attention, but I think he also really cared that he was sacrificing a lot to be in Denver.
I wanted you to do well.
And he wanted me to do well. And he was just like, wait a second, like this can't happen. Like you got to do well. You got to really invest yourself and put your all in it. Cause I'm not sacrificing like this time in Denver, which in the end ended up being such a beautiful time of our lives. But I think that was in the very beginning. And that was actually a very helpful, occurrence because it really set me straight. And it ended up being, I emailed my professor. I so remember this. And I took one full grade lower. I got a B instead of an A, which I was totally willing to take. But from for my moving on in, that was my only glitch. Like I really was very, very, very on top of my work.
Yeah, and she crushed it.
Yeah. I walked down. I graduated 9 months pregnant. So it was really like the timing was good. Yeah. Thank God.
Oh, wow.
On an Erev Shabbos, like an hour before Shabbos.
Yeah. Welcome to going to the University of Denver, where they don't care about the time when Shabbos starts.
Oh my
very
God.
stressful.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. So that's interesting. Some couples, I think, and especially you guys, you help other couples as well. And you talk to them. I think what helps sometimes some couples is when they have some sort of tradition that they take on together, or something that they, a hobby, or something that they decide we're going to do. This is going to be our thing. Did you guys do that at all? Did you?
Well, I think we've all, Devorah mentioned before, walking around the lake in Denver, and that's still something that we do. I would say we try to do it every day. It doesn't happen every day, but we take a lot of just wherever we've been. We find our walking path, and we walk, and we typically we process life through our walks. We both walk a lot on our own also and use it as a time to think. But we've taken a lot of walks. We've launched many, many more traditions once we've had kids. But I think for ourselves, I think that is something about our relationship that we've always done a lot of that, just, really long walks where we process everything that's going on. We talk. When I say we, more my wife. but I'm joking. But it's a good time for us to really like process everything that's going on in our life.
Okay, so walking, it became something the two of you have used as a tool.
Definitely, yeah.
Well, that's beautiful too. So now you referenced that there were other traditions that you started once you had kids. You want to share some of those?
Well, let's see. Tonight we're about 45 minutes after we celebrated my birthday. We do major birthday parties. Thank you.
Yeah.
We do major birthday parties in our family.
Yeah, birthdays have become, it's interesting. I wasn't raised with like any focus on birthdays whatsoever. I mean, I got a birthday gift, it was acknowledged, but we really have found is that just having like a family birthday where we really focus on the birthday boy and on the child. Really like I collect data from them before what's their favorite supper, what colors they want to have, the theme. And I don't spend a ton of money. It's not like, this very lavish thing, but it's more like they can see the attention to the detail. There's a custom game, whether it's a Kahoot or
decorate the house.
Right, we decorate, and then there's usually a present. We always have a dance party at the end. That has actually become a very sacred tradition that my kids they love. So the birthdays have really become something so special. And more than the birthday celebration, I feel like it's a time to just celebrate this child and to really make them feel, or the spouse, and to just really make them feel so loved,
Oh, I like that a lot. Birthday traditions. Did you grow up, Shlomo, with birthday celebrations or?
Birthday cards. I think that's it.
Yeah.
That was it.
That's nice that you took something on together. That's really, really beautiful. I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, so now, what advice would you give to somebody? It seems like you guys, so you had a little hiccups here or there. You don't have to go into all your hiccups, but if you wanted to give advice to somebody that might be going through some sort of hiccup, what would be a good advice as a wife, as a husband? What do you think you would give? And generalization, obviously.
We give a lot of advice. It's hard to pin it down. Because you asked it in a way. You want to take this one?
You can start.
I think because you asked it in a way of someone going into a hiccup, and you specifically referenced the hiccup that we spoke about before. I think that let's just say, for example, that scenario. Obviously, there was no malicious intent. I think that, I was at a stage of my life where, we're learning about each other. And I didn't know Devorah, looking at her from this point of like what kind of student she is and whether she'll take this seriously. Like we were just learning about one another. So therefore, I think for me, I automatically made this assumption, like you're not taking school seriously, almost like as a general rule. And I think I still probably do this a lot where I'll take an isolated incident. I have this is like a talent of mine, not a good one, but like I have this ability, like this Gemara head that I could like weave together like the last 10 things that happened wrong and weave them all together and turn it into like this big, like, oh, there's this and this and this and this and this, and therefore this plus this plus this equals, it must be that you, and create one big picture that puts a whole big bow on everything wrong that was done, and it must be that you are that. And I think that we create these stories, these narratives in our head. So I think that anytime that we're coaching a couple that's maybe going through this hiccup, I try to really figure out like what is the narrative that's not being said, what's going on, or maybe that is being said but that's not accurate. Like what's the real story that's going on in each one of their heads that they're painting that maybe is not exactly the truth, and to try to diffuse that, because often little incidents are supercharged with more emotions and ballooned into a bigger story that's often not accurate.
Yeah, really well said. I think that there's another thing that I'm going to bring up now, and this is something that I certainly had to learn. And I'm saying this to the listeners, assuming that this is based on a healthy relationship. This is not with an unhealthy spouse. Okay, so that's like prerequisite.
Thank you. That's so important.
Okay?
So many people forget to say that, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, I really think that absolutely has to be said. So assuming both people are healthy people, I think one of the hardest things that I had to learn, but the best thing that I've had to learn, is to flip the lens. And I think that oftentimes we tend to automatically blame the spouse, look over there, this flaw, this thing wrong, find all the different things. And I have found, and I have not mastered this, but I have gotten a lot better. And that is that when I can stop and just say, hold on one second, like, where did I play a role in this? What can I do to control this situation that's going on? I have found incredible things happen when you can just look inside and remind yourself, like, likely I had what to do with this. Like, if I'm feeling annoyed about a specific thing that happened, like, let me just see this from his point of view. How can I be different? How can I look at differently? So there's a lot to be said around that, but that's just in a nutshell what I would definitely say.
Beautiful. I love both of what you said. That was really very nice. Thank you. So let's talk about your Lev experience that you started together. Let's hear where it came from, the idea. What is it? What do you do there? Share it all with us. Go ahead.
You want to take this first?
So we moved back from Israel. Like I said, we started our marriage in Denver. We lived in Israel for 4 years, and then we moved back for the first 8 years, from 2010 to 2018. We were the directors of Aish Torah. Aish of Greater Washington, and we had a shul, and it was in Rockville, and it was a beautiful, beautiful small community. And we were also at the time the mission of Aish Torah is to reach out, and the way we were running a whole slew of different programs, including momentum trips, bringing women to Israel, bringing men to Israel. We were running teen programs, we were running young professional programs. And we found that as our network or circle of people, students were growing, the shul that we were running wasn't necessarily the best place to receive them and to try to integrate them. We found that there was this big separation to the point that we were almost, balancing two very, very different jobs. At the same time, our children were getting older, and it was much harder to be living in a small community far away from their friends. So, that combined with, some other things, the cost of living where we were, lots of different factors. There's never one factor when you need to make that major life change. It's always like, it's this plus this plus this. And then you sort of make this big list and and it was a difficult decision that took a long time and a lot of counsel to make. It was a hard decision, but we did feel that we were in the right place, the right time in our lives to really branch out on our own. In conjunction, I don't want to make it sound like it wasn't a break off per se, because we did this with the understanding we were very, very close with our friends in our community over there at Aish Torah, and we did it with their support and with their blessing, and they actually helped us launch this, something new that would allow us to live in the Frum community where we are, which is Silver Spring, a beautiful community that we're in over here, which services all of our personal family shul needs, and really allow us to just be as creative and as outreach oriented as we wanted to be. And that's where the Lev experience was born. And it started out, our initial offering that really got people excited is that we would do things in people's homes. So we actually had a whole network of people that we knew for many years who would host us in their home for workshops and series like that. A lot on marriage, a lot on parenting, a lot on, the Kabbalah of this and the Kabbalah of that. I'm very big into like wrapping the Kabbalah into whatever we do because I like it and it's interesting for people. And then COVID hit, and I think during COVID we became a little bit more creative in what we did. We started launching some new content. That's when I finished writing the book and started posting my classes as a podcast, which turned into an actual, podcast, the Empowered Jewish Living podcast.
We started a different video series, and we started just engaging with our audience in a very new way. And what we noticed, I totally just cut you off, right? We started a new program for teens called Metamorphosis. But I think what was so unbelievable that we noticed is that as we're trying to get more creative, our net was just being thrown wider and wider. And we were just bringing in more and more people into this like Lev Umbrella. And they were coming not just from Silver Spring, Maryland, not just from Maryland in general. They were coming from all over the United States, really all over the world. People were like streaming in. So suddenly the umbrella that we looked at as Lev as being this like little local, organization, we took a step back and we're like, oh my, look what's actually happening here. And I will just say that while I think one of the important things actually, because it is so much the two of us, but we do have an extremely, extremely supportive board and team that really kind of pushed this into action, different people stepping up at different times to the point that it almost felt like they were like, we're so going to help you get this going. You just got to go. They really gave us that extra oomph. And I think that a couple that we believed in ourselves, but knowing that other people really believed in the two of us together was also what really like brought it to the next level.
Wow. And how is it working together? Like, do you say, oh, I bring this to the table, he brings that to the table? Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think really we, like when you speak about a marriage from the Torah's perspective, the Torah doesn't say a lot about marriage. What does the Torah say? Ezer Kenegdo, right? That's the Torah's way of saying like the relationship, the wife is the Ezer Kenegdo, right? And like the Gemara says, like, that the spouses, they'll either help each other or they'll kill each other. Why? Because the way that we complement each other is in ways that we're different. And that's wonderful. That makes each one of us stronger. And it's also, often the points of contention. So we're very, very similar in many ways. And then we're also very, very different in many ways. And I think because of that, we complement each other very, very well in our skill sets and also our attitudes and perspectives. And that makes it beautiful to work together. And it also makes it hard to work together because, often that will surface. That's really the juggling act.
Yeah. There was a certain time in our life, I would say, like, I was like, I don't think this is the best thing. Like, I don't know if this relationship of us constantly working together really is the best thing. Just like, to be totally honest. It was at that point that I actually went for like some real, like, coaching on myself, like real personal coaching. And again, that was really where I started to learn, like, when you can flip that lens and just invest in yourself, your personal growth, you will generally see that the outcome of the whole union, changes. And so that was really a big, big shift in our working relationship that I felt like brought up all of our working together, brought all of our marriage, just better. And also this working relationship. I remember reaching out and I just remember saying to like, I think this is not a good idea. Like, maybe I should just find another job. I am a social worker by trade. Like, maybe I should just like leave all this and just, kind of scooch. But we do figure it out. And it's not to be said that everything is always easy. It's not to be said that we always agree on everything and that our styles are always totally the same. And full disclosure, I always say like, thank God Shlomo keeps me grounded because I'm like, I just have craziness ideas. And I just sometimes think, I don't know, like I'm like sometimes like a little out of touch. So Shlomo really does keep me grounded. And as much as sometimes I'm like, no, it's a really good idea. It's a really good idea. Like I always come back and like, no, yeah, you were right. So
I will literally at times, like we could be sitting together and I'll just be like, okay, Devorah, you're fired.
This is not working anymore. But then we pick up the next day and there we are back again. So it really is. It's a commitment, and there is something. Even just doing this, this podcast interview with you. There's something very unbelievable, actually. Like I will say, like humbly, like to look back and to reflect, like just of all the highs and all the lows. And I don't want to make it sound like everything was just a high. Right. Trust me, trust us. There were plenty lows. There were plenty struggles. And of course, when you're in a position of leadership. People are looking towards you. People are, that adds just like the extra pressure. And so, sometimes even when people might think, oh yeah, like it's totally perfect. And we're like, we're struggling for air right now. And those moments do happen. And I think here's a third point that I would just take away in terms of just knowing that if you can embrace the struggle and know that actually, like, part of the system of marriage is that there will be great days. We'll refer to those as Yemei Ahava, just days of closeness, days where things are in flow, days where things are really working. And then there are days where we would call Yemei Sinah, where it just feels like this is not working. This is not jiving. There's friction, there's tension, and just to kind of like go with those and not like harp on them, but just kind of like, okay, they come and go. Like that's part of the flow. And for me, being able to recognize that that's okay. Don't harp on it. That doesn't have to define our marriage relationship. It certainly doesn't have to I should say it opposite. It doesn't have to define our working relationship, and it certainly doesn't have to define our marriage relationship. That was a very, very helpful thing for me as well.
Mm-hmm. I just, I'm going to go back a little bit and come forward again. Shlomo, when you mentioned the Torah and marriage, I just have to me, you mentioned Torah, I'm right in there. So I think there's a beautiful thought that would go so well with a lot of the things that you're saying, because marriage is nisuin. Nisuin, the shoresh is to carry. Well, it has two different translations, and we'll touch on both of them. To carry, then I find that a marriage is about carrying each other when each other needs to be carried. That, like you were saying, that there are flows that, some days are good for some days are, that nisuin is about stepping in for your partner, stepping in and carrying each other. She's having a bad day. Okay, I'm going to now try to support her for what she's going through. He's having a bad day. I'm going, they're having let's support. It's all about supporting each other, what they're in, and learning to carry each other's loads. Because sometimes you are depleted. And you have to know that you have somebody there that's just going to catch you when you're depleted and you're together. And I think the other translation of nisuin is we talk about noseh avon pesha, right? It's about forgiveness, and that's another translation of the word noseh is to forgive. And I think that's also this marriage, this partnership is learning to forgive each other for whatever else might come. Obviously, again, in the normal, healthy two people type of bond that you have and connection, that there's a sense of forgiving. Oh, they did have a bad day, that's okay. I'm going to be accepting. I know who they are, or as you had said, Shlomo, I'm not going to take these 10 little, incidents and then make a whole big picture out of it. I'm really going to look at the person for who they are and see truly who they are and understand and be forgiving. So I think that's a beauty of the word nisuin. I don't know.
Beautiful. I love that. Both of those.
Yeah. That's a nice idea. But I want to go forward again, because I'm trying to remember everything that you said. You guys said a lot when you were talking about Shlomo being grounded, right? And you're like, woo, like that type of person. I think that's, Shlomo, maybe you could disagree with me, but probably that helps you even when she has that creativity. Yeah, you might help her, Devorah be grounded, but yet it probably expands you as well.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's exactly what I'm saying when I say it's literally Ezer Kenegdo, because I, tend to overthink things and can be too much. I don't think I'm a pessimist, but I'm definitely
you're a realist. I would say you're a realist.
And probably sometimes to a fault. So it is definitely nice. And it's nice to see, listen, I think that both of us, I do believe that we still have that same ambition that we felt that when we were dating. One of the things that I think certainly what attracted me to her, and I think that one of the things that we just felt the nature of our relationship is we felt like we could conquer the world. And I think that it's different because back then we could conquer the world and there would be no obstacles and, the world is our oyster. And now it's there are so many obstacles, but we can get through it together. And, when we're each having a bad day, I think that we can, because we're usually going through that together, those struggles together, I think that we can very much empathize with one another. We both feel each other down to our kishkas, and yet, I feel like we never feel hopeless. We're always yes, but we know, we made it this far, we built a lot together, and we can keep pushing through that. So I think that it gives, even our conversations, I think it always gives us both a sense that we can feel each other's struggles, but also we're still sort of committed to that attitude of pushing forward, continuing, and together we can break through those obstacles.
So let's talk about your proudest moments together. What would you say is your proudest moments together?
What is the proudest moments?
Proudest moments. I mean, the cliche answer is really, I mean, each of our children.
Right?
Exactly. Like really, I just think back to each one of them when they were born and just thank God, like the joy that every single one of them brings. It's just really, really unbelievable. I would definitely say that, you know, from the Lev experience perspective, like that, we did something called Lev Uncorked, where we did like our first event where it was like, we're live, like this is happening, you know? And I just remember feeling like, oh my gosh, like the room was packed and we were like, we did this, like this is it, like it's starting, you know? It felt like something very exciting was starting, which it was. And again, Hashem had other plans, like COVID was going to hit very shortly after, but certainly that moment of starting the Lev experience was very, very special.
And I would add, what I was thinking also along those lines is as we were launching the Lev experience, within a short time, we launched an organization, we moved, we bought our first home, and you were pregnant with Usher right around that time, no?
Yes.
Or shortly after?
Usher was born right before COVID, so yeah, around that time.
So like it was like a lot, like launching an organization, buying our first home, moving, you know, all of that stuff. Like there was a lot happening at the time. And yes, I mean, that was certainly, I was very, very proud of that moment.
Yeah.
And then I'm just going to say this just because this is like a weird memory that's jumping into my head. But our first Purim, after we launched the Lev Experience, we had a great mix of people come. We had our Lev people, you know, like non-religious people come. And then we had some friends of ours from the community come. And we had just this beautiful mix of people that were there. And then I had students, you know, younger students, teenage students from the school, which I've, you know, taught different classes. And then they came barging in and we had this whole room full of just tons and tons and tons of energy. And then I'll say, I don't know why this is coming to my head now, but I turned to, you know, I always like I don't really prepare for these things. Just, you know, whatever happens. I have my guitar, I'll play a song, I have my speaker set up, whatever it is. And then I don't know why, like, but I just turned to my daughter, my eldest daughter at the time. And I'm like, Meira, like, we need some inspiration now, like, save our Torah. And she just like pulled it out of, you know, like her, like she had one ready, you know, whatever it is from school. And she delivered it, you know, to this crowd of like, you know, from and not from, and, you know, just this, and, you know, so eloquently and beautifully. And at that point I felt like, you know what, like, this is a family operation here. Like, look at this, you know, we just got another teammate on board.
Yeah.
So I think that was a proud moment to me, like in our family.
Wow, that's
Yeah. I'll say every time, I think like when I think back to our days, even at age, like every time we did the high holidays and every time we had like, you know, a big, some sort of big Shabbat or, you know, something like that was always like it felt like, oh, like after, oh my gosh, at the end of Sukkot, those years, like I would turn to Shlomo and I'd be like, oh, like if we could do that, we could do anything. Like it literally felt like a marathon. Like it was so much. And this past year, we did our first high holiday experience with the Lev experience, and it was new. We didn't know what we were going to be in for. We really, our people were asking. We delivered, but we were in a hotel. It was brand new. It was a mix of people. We brought some families with us who were staying in the hotel, and then many who were not. And just afterwards, after we did it, it really is. It's looking back and like, again, with help, but it's like, oh my gosh, you know, like this was really quite amazing. And I mean, are you not going to talk? I guess I can't. I love to think of his book as our effort. Isn't that amazing?
You should know she advertises your book on every retreat. She talks about you all the time. She's such a supportive wife.
It sells. I'm telling you, the sales of the book launched right after the Project Inspire retreat. I'm telling you, couldn't ask for a better sales.
It's so cute. It's so cute.
No, so truth be told, it's definitely not my project. Although I would say I am his biggest cheerleader, and I'm so proud. And so when I think about our accomplishments, I totally put the book in there, and I will totally take. And
also
credit.
For the upcoming book, I made the mistake of the first book not having Devorah read it first.
Right.
And then this book, she read every single line and just went through it with a pen and then just said, you know, like you're totally off the grid over here. Like no one's going to know what you're talking about. Because I think that was with the first book. Afterwards, she read it. She's like, how do you, like, people are not in your brain. Like, how do you expect
I
them to
don't go
decipher
that
that?
far, not that far. Just
But the second
yeah.
one, she toned it down and you made sure that everything is speaking the language of normal human beings.
You're making it sound like your first book is not for normal people. The first book is great. The second one's even better.
So cute, so cute. So let's talk about it just quickly about your Instagram. When you do the Lev experience, Instagram, what is your goals on that account?
The Instagram specific?
Yeah.
We're learning our social media. I would say I don't think that we're that good at it. So I think that, for me, my main piece of content over the last couple of years has been the book and my podcast, and then whatever spills over onto Instagram. So I wish that we had like an Instagram person,
We do. We have somebody who's really trying to help us get it going, and she really is trying. I will say over COVID, it was much more, both Facebook and Instagram. Lev Experience was much more active. We had professional videographer coming in, recording certain stuff.
And it was the first time that we ever did any. I remember when COVID first started, it was the first time we ever did anything live on social media.
Oh my gosh, I was panicked. I was totally panicked. And somebody just sent me a video. They're like, wow, this is such a great message. I'm looking at myself. I was so uncomfortable on the camera. Like, I could tell how much I've grown. So, but then it was much more. I remember the
first video that we ever did, probably the first 20 seconds. I was just like, is this working? Just trying to figure out.
It's like that classic trying to figure out all those lives. So during COVID, it was much more active. Now, I would say that now it's a very interesting thing that you're asking that, because there is this interesting, do we post this on Lev? Do we post this on Shlomo? Do we post this on Devorah? Do we post this on all three? What is this, It is. It's interesting. We're trying to figure that all out.
I'm trying to still figure out. Okay, so now this is a question I've asked every couple, and I think most couples have really enjoyed it. So you ready? Mm-hmm. What song or movie? Again, movie. I'm not even going to go. If you watch movies, okay, or a book would be most like your relationship?
I am totally ready for this question.
Okay.
Oh, get ready. If he's ready.
Because I listened to your last episode and I said, if she's asking it then, I better be ready for this.
Okay.
And we have watched a movie or two in our I don't know your audience well enough, and if they're okay with that. But we've definitely taken opportunity every now and then as a couple to grow closer together by, watching movies that we felt would, connect us more and things that we can talk about. So I'll say that. But the movie that I thought of when you asked the question was something that we did not watch together. And to tell you the truth, it's a movie that I don't even like. But the concept of the movie, literally, I think would, and I'll tell you a song also, by the way.
Okay.
For the movie, you ever watched the movie The Incredibles?
Yes.
You know how the wife...
I guess that's our movie. I dressed up as The Incredibles movie, but
that's
I don't know
right.
if I ever watched it
you should post a picture.
Yeah, there you go.
You know how the wife, she has this... Jordana, have you watched The Incredibles?
I watched it. You're asking me details. I don't know if I remember all these.
Okay, don't forget the actual... I don't even know the plot of the movie. I mean, I've watched it, but the point is, you have the wife, who they each have their own superpower.
Right.
Okay? The wife can stretch, so she can
she's
have
elastic,
exactly.
Right?
She's like elastic. So she could have a hand in one room and then a hand going upstairs and down, and her foot somewhere else. So she's just and it makes me think of Devorah because she's always she's literally in multiple rooms in the house,
at the
same time. The guy, the Mr. Incredible. So, he's trying to cover up, because part of, the government program, he has to cover up the fact that he has superpowers. So he's, this big, bulky, superhuman, ripped guy. But, he has to act like he's, in an office, on a computer. He hates it. And he has, this boss who's, this little shrimpy guy who's telling him. And he just, you can just see, he just wants to, break out of it. And I see, a lot of times with me, I feel like I'm this, I'm creative and I have ideas and I want to do. And here I'm just, entering things into QuickBooks. It's what am I doing here? And then each one of the kids also they have their superpower, and they're learning in the movie what each of the kids or what the youngest kid what a superpower is. And here I look at our family also, and each kid, they're so different with their own superpower. So I kind of I feel like a little bit, The Incredibles. Forget about what the plot of the movie is, but that's that.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's the movie. Do you still want to hear the song? Or are we here?
What? How about Devorah? What about you? Were you going to play for us, Devorah?
Can you hear it?
I hear.
Do we know the song?
I'm waiting.
Name that song on the Drink It In podcast.
Ah, very nice.
We've just, I think we've just turned off all of Jordana's listeners who don't listen
Oh,
to.
not sure.
Oh,
So,
stay with us, guys.
first of all, just a small town girl, just a city boy. Those are the lyrics. So immediately I'm thinking, wow, that works well. But I thought about it more. I don't know if you're familiar with the chorus. So the chorus is, don't stop believing, hold on to that feeling, street light people. I always wondered, what is a street light people? So apparently the fellow who wrote the song, he was in a hotel room and he was looking down at night. And he sees all these people walking by these streetlights, and they're walking in the light and then into the darkness, in the light into the darkness. And he's yelling out to them. He's saying, don't stop believing, hold on to that feeling. And that is so what I feel like. Here we are, we're just looking around at this world, and what we're really trying to do is look at all the streetlight people and just be like, don't stop believing. We have such a beautiful heritage, a beautiful Yiddishkeit. Just don't stop believing in it. And we know, we can just push a little bit more, and we really could, awaken the Jewish spirit. And I think for us also, for us, it's a message, don't stop believing. We can do this, continue to push forward. So I think that really captures a lot of
Your mission.
and how I see ourselves.
Yeah.
Wow, so beautiful. Oh my gosh. I love that. You gave me a movie and a song, but I love that imagery. I love that imagery that you were referencing. I was really imagining it when you were describing it. And also just the fact that you said going in and out of the light, that's again, a lot of what you were talking about, a flow of life, a flow of a relationship. You go through things, the good things, and then it flows out and it flows in. And I think that really sums up everything that you were describing on this, on this interview and this discussion. So thank you. Now, if somebody wanted to contact the both of you, what is the best way to reach you?
Yeah, either any of those three things. I think that you can go to the levx.org, regular website, but I think our Instagram page is probably the best way to just message either Devorah Buxbaum, Shlomo Buxbaum, or the Lev Experience Instagram page, which we also check, all the time. So any of those.
We're on multiple social medias. The LevX site, RebbeShlomo.com is my website. You can contact us. We're easy to get in touch with.
We're very easy, yeah.
Yeah. This was amazing. Thank you so much for taking
the time.
Jordana. Especially on your birthday. Didn't even realize. So thank you.
Happy birthday. My birthday party. It's not quite my birthday.
We had to find the right time because we were like, just let's not have it to be 5 minutes long. Let's find the right night. We had to push it off a few nights so that we could really give it the attention. But yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jordana.